value the deal with financing in action. In the last video, we discussed the cash flow impacts of a loan. And these are the items that make up that cash flow impact: loan amount, loan fees, loan payments, and payoff amount at sale. And here are the components that allow you to calculate those other things: value, loan to value, loan amount, interest rate, term, and amortization. Throughout this video, I'm going to show you how to use some dynamic features of Excel so that based on the purchase price, it'll automatically calculate the loan to value, the loan payment amount, the loan repayment, and all that other stuff. But to do that, I need to make your life simpler, because learning to do this stuff gets kind of complex. And I'm going to take the complexity away from you, and I'm going to make this really easy for you. But in order for me to make it easy for you, you need to do things the way I tell you to. And we're going to have to do something in a certain order. Follow along with me, it'll all make sense soon. But in a nutshell, we're going to use the components here to calculate all of these things. So looking at our DCF analysis, I want to come down here under the work we did when we calculated the return and the purchase price for an all-cash deal. And I want to start writing all those loan components we discussed before. You could put them up here at the top under assumptions, but I think it's going to be cleaner if we keep it separate and we keep it below the DCF analysis for the all-cash portion. So let's start writing all those things verbatim that we saw in the previous slide. You can actually see them in the order I'm going to write them in the text below this video. Refer to that when you're actually doing this stuff on your own. By doing things in the order that we're going to do them, we're going to use some fancy Excel formulas that are going to do a lot of the work for you and take a lot of the complexity out of valuing this deal. Let's label these loan assumptions. Let's make this bold to stand out. The first is value, loan to value, loan amount, interest rate, term in years. It's always good to specify whether it's months or years. We're almost always going to be doing things by years here in this analysis. And the amortization in years. For good measure, let's also write in loan payments and specify per year. And let's also specify loan payoff. That's what you're going to pay back after 3 years when you go and sell your investment to somebody else. You may have already taken care of some of this on your own, but you can see that some of the words here bleed across multiple cells. This one bleeds across 1, 2, 3 cells, and it's actually only in one cell. What I'm going to do is come up here, right in between B and C. If you hover over the line, you get that line with arrows on either side. If you get that centered ever so perfectly, you double click and it expands that cell so everything fits right within the cell. And here's what it looks like as you scroll up and down to see what we just did. Now let's start filling in these blanks. So before we get started, all of these loan assumptions have nothing to do with the years. These are just things we're going to calculate right now, right here, so that we can use them in our DCF analysis. So for value, we're going to use the maximum purchase price we calculated for an all-cash deal. So type equals, click the cell for max purchase price, hit enter, and it copies that formula over there. So anytime we change this return, let's say we change it to 9, it changes here, and it changes the value here. So this is connected, which is exactly what we want. Loan to value, I'm going to go with 70% here. I need to change that to percent. That's an input, so I do want to make it blue also. And then to calculate the loan amount, that's the loan to value times value. So equals loan to value times value. Hashtags, so let's expand this. Remember, hashtags tells you that something is too big for that cell. Interest rate, I'm going to go with 5% here. I have no idea what this is actually going to be like when you actually view this video. Interest rates could go up, they could go down further, who knows. Change that to a percent. Make it a blue input. Term, we're going to go with 3 years because this is a 3-year hold period. We're not going to have a loan term longer than how long we're going to own the property. We sell that property, we got to pay that bank back. So 3 years, make it an input. Amortization, I'm going to go with 20 years. Make it blue for an input. And remember, amortization is how your payments are structured. They're set up to be paid off over 20 years, even though you're going to only have a loan for 3 years, which means you're going to have 17 years of loan payments not made at the end of 3 years. So you need to pay back a big loan payoff amount, which we'll calculate down here, but that sets the stage. Moving on to loan payments. As we proceed, I need you to make 2 changes quickly. One is to change the return for an all-cash deal to 7.15%. That should increase your maximum purchase price to $161,184. I also need you to decrease the interest rate on the loan to 4%. Once you make those 2 changes, everything you see on your screen should be the same as you see on my screen. Calculating loan payments in Excel is a little bit tricky if you're new to this stuff. So I'm going to make your life really, really easy and give you a formula you can paste in here, and it'll give you the right answer so long as you set everything up the way we did here, writing everything from value all the way down to amortization in this particular order. What this formula is going to do is look up a certain number of cells to grab whatever data is there and incorporate it into the formula. Most of the stuff is going to be taken into account to calculate that payment, and I'll do the same for loan payoff. There'll be a formula we'll paste down here that will basically look 1 cell above it or 2 cells above it or 5 cells above it to get whatever data it needs to make the calculation. So key thing, make sure you have all these numbers and all these different items in this order, okay? So looking at the loan payment formula, you'll find a copy of this in the text below this video on this website that you're looking at. Copy everything from the equal sign at the beginning to the 12 at the end. And as an aside, don't think that you have to understand what's going on in here. I actually had to go and learn how to do all this stuff to make your life easier in this process. Even I didn't know this stuff at the beginning. One thing about Excel, you can do a lot with it knowing just a little about how to use it. And then you add to that skill set over time as you have a new need. And Google's a great place to look to go how to learn different Excel functions. So having copied that formula, I'm going to paste it down here. You see everything equals all the way through the times 12 at the end. And there's the loan payment amount per year. These are structured to be monthly payments, but we have 12 monthly payments added together here to calculate this $8,200. That's very important. This loan assumes you're making monthly payments, not annual payments. However, we're looking at an annual picture, which means we have to look at the annual amount we paid over the year. And the loan payoff amount is equally crazy looking. Copy everything from the equal sign all the way to the closed parenthesis at the end. And having copied that, I'm just going to paste it here, hit enter, and there's your loan payoff amount. And again, that's at the end of 3 years, because you're looking at a 3-year term with 20-year amortization. There are 17 years of payments you wouldn't have made by the time you paid off this loan. Therefore, you have a great big balance to pay off at the end of 3 years. Let's also add loan costs at the bottom. We discussed this. And let's make them $5,000. And that's already blue, so we don't have to make any formatting changes. One other comment about the loan payments and the loan payoff amount. If you want to verify that this is doing the correct thing, just come back to this video. I'm going to write 100,000 in here in the loan amount category. And if your numbers are these that you see before you right here, everything's working properly up here. As long as you type $100,000 loan amount, 4% interest rate, term of 3 years, amortization 20 years. Use this as your check to make sure that the formulas are pulling correctly. If they are, you can go and make changes to these things, like make this 70% of the value, and you're good to go. So this is part 1. This is getting set up. We haven't done anything with the cash flows yet. We just spent some time in Excel learning how to set up all the cash flow impacting things so that we can use them in the discounted cash flow, which you're going to see in the next video. We'll see you really soon.